This Timberwolves team is getting really impressive. We've got the best record in the NBA at 17-4 after picking up this win in Memphis against the Grizzlies with a 24-point win, giving us a 6-game winning streak. And although we were going up against Memphis, who are missing so many studs, no Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, Steven Adams, Luke Kennard, list goes on, and they're 1-9 at home, which is unthinkable for a team that's been dominant at home the last several seasons. But we're missing people too. We've had this winning streak with no Jaden McDaniels. We've been missing a lot of Anthony Edwards. He's missed 2 games in that stretch, and then tonight he plays just 3 minutes and then has a hit pointer issue where he goes out of the game, questionable return, never does, but we would win this one handily by 24 points, so we did not need Anthony Edwards. And even when he came back the previous game, he was inefficient and struggling a bit. So we're getting contributions across the board. Like, this is a team effort, and the entire team is elevating their play. But one person, of course, stands out. The source of fury from last season, Rudy Gobert, is coming back with a fury, and he is playing unreal basketball. So dominant. Back-to-back 20 rebound games for Rudy Gobert. And he also picks up 6 blocks in this game. Picking up blocks that you just don't think will happen, should happen. Like, people are outside of the lane going with outer hand layups, and he catches those at the apex, blocks them, and it just seems downright unfair. And he's imposing and terrifying to people when they're in the lane, changing shots, making people turn it over because they don't want to challenge him. He has been such a huge impact player for us. And if I had to pick just 2 All-Stars for the Wolves this season, although I think they'll probably get 3, it's Anthony Edwards, number 1, Rudy Gobert, number 2. Because Karl Anthony Towns' consistency's been up and down. He did lead us in scoring with 24 points in this one. It felt like he missed a lot of shots, but he was 7 of 14. He just missed like a couple gimmies and had some stretches where he's a little sloppy. Also 4 fouls in this one, 3 of them being really bad, unnecessary ones. And I don't know, I get frustrated with Cat just because you've got such great expectations of him. You know his potential, and then he has the stupid stuff that he does that makes a lot of that go away, and had some early foul trouble, which was worrisome when we didn't have Ant to rely on and go back on. But a lot of other people stepped up. We had Mike Conley with his season high in scoring. He does best when he's at home, and Memphis is another home for him. So he gets 19 points, 7 assists, had some big plays with him. I love when we flare for Mike Conley threes, and Cat had a find to him in the fourth quarter. And when we can get him off ball and get some screens for him, people don't key in on Conley, and he can make him pay. So I love to see that. And Cat can pass when things are like set up for him, and he doesn't have to do too much. And so that's great. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Troy Brown Jr. have really elevated their play. They were spectacular tonight. Troy Brown Jr. season high of 20 points in this one, and he was just balling. Started the third quarter so strong for us, and that's where we really expanded our lead and built it up big. And his 3-point shooting to start that quarter was phenomenal, and I've loved his minutes all the way through. You love how much he grinds and tries on defense and gets boards, and then when the shooting pays off as well, he is just such a great player for us. Nickeil as well knocks down 4 threes in this game. You know the defensive pressure is there. He's so smart off ball. And it's really a luxury to have those 2 players playing at starter quality. So when we get Ant and Jaden back, we can have these bench guards come off and really bring a punch with confidence. Speaking of someone who did that off the bench tonight, Shake Milton. I've been a hater of him early on in the season, and he has really struggled, especially shooting the ball. I liked his aggression and confidence in this one. He looked different. Like, he was assertive and trying to score, and it paid off for him. I mean, it just helps when the ball goes in, and it's easier to cheer for someone when that's happening. Still had 2 kind of bad turnovers that frustrated me a bit in this one, but he shot the ball better, and it seemed like he was just like, all right, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get a bucket. And when, for a player like him, I think that's a pretty decent mentality to have, and that can help you get out of slumps. So hopefully we see the version of Shake that we saw tonight instead of what we've seen the rest of the season. So as much as I've been bashing him, we got to recognize when he steps up, and he did tonight. Although a couple buckets were in garbage time, the 10 points that he had in the first half were big for us in keeping that game close. Number one guy you got to mention on the bench for the Timberwolves, though, has got to be Naz Reid. He was good for us yet again tonight. Also had some nice minutes where we had Naz, Gobert, and Cat on the court at the same time. Love when we see those mega big lineups, and we also ran 2-3 zone through a lot of that. I have been saying I like the zone just about every time I've seen it, and it doesn't always work, but I just love having that change up, throw that in there. But Naz was getting buckets for us again, couldn't hit the 3 tonight, as he couldn't last game either, but scoring well outside of that, and he's got to be in that conversation for 6th man of the year, and has been a huge player for us overall. You can usually say that about Kyle Anderson too. This was one of his worst games. We got a lot of 3-point shots out of slow-mo, and he was 0 for 6 at one point on threes and 0 of 9 total. He's been super reluctant to shoot threes this year and basically hasn't been. Then we get a bunch in this one, not going down. His only 2 baskets were in garbage time, and then he's kind of given to praise it once he finally makes a 3 with like less than a minute left. Also, we're pretty fortunate that we got to play both games in Memphis while Ja was suspended, and we were able to pick up both of those wins, which we haven't won both Memphis games since the 2003-2004 season. And so that's a pretty big deal, and the next 2 times that we play them for the rest of the year, that will be at home, where we have 1 loss on the year. We're 10-1. So that's a big deal as well, and pretty fortunate. Like it. All right, next game is on Monday against the Pelicans.